There we go. We are live, good sir. Live. Well, not really live. We're recording.
Well, we're starting out live. I mean, we're here.
Well, we're definitely alive.
We're live.
We're definitely alive.
We're doing it.
Maybe a little more. We just finished a class, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
We should have a good energy flow.
Mm.
And we do.
So what did you think about that? That was more of a beginner class. We did the Tai Chi walk. We did the 8 pieces of the brocade. It's been a while since you've done that.
It has, but every time we do it, I learn a little bit more, a little bit in depth.
Okay.
I've done it, a beginner's class, a few times. And I do more because each time you get another piece of knowledge from it. Like, I did the walk before,
Mhm.
maybe 2 times.
In class.
In class.
Because you practice it all the time when you're home.
I have practiced it.
You're an honest man.
I have. I want to get better at it. So each time we do the 8 pieces of brocade or any movement, form, exercise, I get a little bit more from it.
Okay.
It's like building on top of a foundation.
Absolutely.
You got to start somewhere. And I
Mhm.
think that walk is a good place to start. It gets some of the aspects, some of the principles in motion.
Yeah.
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 Because you could read a book all day and watch a video all day, but you got to get up and do it.
Right.
And it is a little, it's an exercise that gives you a good basis for your Tai Chi movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. All the principles of Tai Chi are right in that walk. All of them. If you get the Tai Chi walk down, you have, in many ways, mastered a huge part of Tai Chi. Absolutely.
Even if it's the most basic, and it's not really done in the form or the exercise, but it's the principles.
Correct.
So once you learn to apply those principles, it transfers into the form,
Absolutely.
into the Qigong.
So when we work on balancing into one leg, extending the other, dropping into that pool of water, right? So we don't want to make any splashes.
Mm-hmm.
So dropping that heel into the water, making no splashes, and then as soon as the heel touches, lowering the foot, shifting the weight forward, and then moving your root. You're doing all of that in the Tai Chi walk.
And you're getting a lot of practice doing it because each step you do it, each and every step you
Correct.
take, you do that.
Correct. And think about, we did that for about 25 minutes. Forward, back, and all we did was cross this floor 15 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it took you 25 minutes to move 30 feet.
Again, I see a moving meditation there
Mm-hmm.
because you're totally committed to those movements.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no other thoughts really. You do lose yourself in doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is kind of hard to do when I'm sitting with a still mind. But when I'm doing it in motion, I find it easier to get to that meditative state.
Right. Well, you know why that is, right? Because when you're doing your Tai Chi, and because it's moving meditation, you're not looking for the meditative aspect of
Right,
things.
you're not looking for anything. You have found it.
Right.
That is it.
But that is meditation at its core. Tai Chi being moving meditation, that is meditation at its core, is that you go into it you don't go in it looking for the face of Buddha, you don't go into it looking to center yourself. You just go into it because you enjoy it. And if you enjoy it, then you'll spend time in it.
And you lose yourself in it.
Correct.
You do.
Right.
I was having a hard time getting into a meditative state. But this moving meditation, I can get into it much quicker.
Oh,
easier.
absolutely. Because you're just into it.
Mhm.
And I think Tai Chi is built that way. I mean, I wasn't there when they erected all the structures and wrote the Tai Chi classics, but it seems to me that it was built that way. When you think of the very first principle of Tai Chi, when one part of the body moves, the entire body moves. Now really break that down.
This is in the Tai Chi
Tai Chi Classics.
where it says that's the number one.
Number one principle. One part of the body moves, the entire body moves. Right? Wow. But think about it. Think about how many processes have to take place for for you to do this with your finger. Blood's got to pump, heart's got to go, synapses, billions of synapses fire all the way up your arm just to do this. It's no different. Like we were talking about in class, to move the smallest movements take the biggest manipulation of the dantian. And the small manipulations of the dantian grant the biggest movements. When I want to throw this arm way up, it's a tiny little in the dantian to do it. But if I want to go like this, I've got to really move around to get that going and make it accurate.
To make everything move.
Right. And so that's where the Tai Chi walk comes in, because you're simplifying all of the movements, into something you do every day, but it's new, even though it's familiar. And it is meditative because you've never thought about walking.
Like that.
Yeah, you've never, other than when you're injured, right?
Right.
Or you're sick. When do you think about, or you're super tired, when do you think about walking? When you're hiking off the mountains, you're thinking about where your feet are.
You got to watch
placed
your
and-
feet when you're climbing up rocks, and yeah.
But when you run, you just run. You don't think about what the placement of your feet are. You may check in on your hips or your joints or whatever, but you're not thinking about when the heel hits the ground, the arch, the ball, the toes, and then shifting the weight and coming off the back. That's complicated as all hell. But you're already doing it. You do that in every step.
Well, when I was
Just don't
injured,
think about it.
and I was off my feet for almost a year,
Mhm.
and it was time to get up and walk when I finally healed enough to where I could get up and walk with crutches
Mhm.
or a walker or whatever. I pretty much forgot how to walk.
Right.
Everything atrophied. There was no muscle there. It was just like jello for just sitting, laying for many, many months.
Yeah.
So I figured, okay, now I'm better. Now I can start walking. Didn't happen, man. I had to
no.
learn how to walk
Yeah.
again. So that's why, to me, there is thought in it. Because I was injured. Before that, you don't give any thought to it. You just go. Same way with running. You pick up the pace and you run. But when you no longer have the ability to walk, you lose that technique. It was, and I couldn't believe it. I'm there, how can I not know how to walk? I've been walking for 50 years. I've been off my feet for about a year, and I can't walk.
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
Oh.
Doesn't take long at all.
I did get it back, but it took a lot of work.
Yeah. Yeah. For something so fundamental that everybody takes for
You
granted.
take for granted of it until you no longer have it.
Right. And so that, I mean, even that with the Tai Chi walk really focuses on not taking for granted all of the physics and just the everything that is involved in the act of walking
You pretty
and
much
being balanced.
learn to walk before you can talk. That's one of the first things you
Absolutely,
learn. Is to walk.
absolutely. And you just sort of cruise around and you do your thing as infant, toddler
Right.
age.
You're wobbly, but you get
Right.
good at it, and now you're running.
So you don't remember learning how to walk. You've always walked in your own mind. No one remembers that first time they took a step, you know? So
But
it's
if
not
you-
something we think about.
If you watch a baby who can't walk start to walk,
Mhm.
and then 2 steps and 3 steps, and now, a few months later, they're running. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But that she learned that before she learned to talk.
Yeah.
So walking is a very basic, early skill we get. It's very basic.
Well, think about it anthropologically, right? Lucy, the what was that? Australopithecus,
One
the
of the
fossil.
first,
Yeah, the oldest. I think they found older ones now, but for the longest time, archaeologists looked for the big brain. They were looking for the big brain, thinking that that was the thing that made us different from the animal kingdom. And what we have learned is that the thing that really kicked off what would eventually become Homo sapien was standing on 2 feet. Was learning how to walk upright.
Right, no longer using your knuckle, no longer using all 4,
Right.
just the 2. So that was the difference
Right.
between us and the primates. Well, we are a primate.
We are primates, yeah. We're part of the great apes. But the difference being that even chimps, the gorillas, they still walk on all 4. They can stand for a time,
Right.
but it gets uncomfortable. Their pelvic bones aren't designed to be bipedal like we are, which then frees up our hands, which then frees up everything else.
And that's where we learned, because
Right.
now we could use our hands other than walking.
Correct. It freed up a lot of things. So it's the same idea. We knew how to walk long before we knew how to talk, even anthropologically speaking. So it makes sense.
So it makes sense to start the Tai Chi with walking.
That's
It
right.
just makes sense.
That's right.
And then from there, you go to the next beginner principle.
That's it. And it's all just a matter of learning your stances. And what's really nice about the Tai Chi walk is you're standing on one foot long before you realize you're standing on one foot. When we go into something like Golden Rooster or our heel kick, you kind of hear the wave across, like, oh God, here we go. But you've already been standing on one foot the whole time. You've been shifting your weight back and forth. And it's an easy way to learn how to do that, so that honestly you'll be pleasantly surprised when the knee finally comes up, or you extend, or even something like White Stork spreads its wings. The empty step, you're still standing on one foot, and that's a very familiar feeling at that point because of the Tai Chi walk.
One of the first concepts I was amazed at was standing on one foot with both feet on the ground. When I first heard that, it was how could that be? How could that be? But now I get it. But at first it was a pretty far-fetched concept. Well, I'm standing on one foot, but both of my feet are on the ground. How could that be? And I had to think about it, and it took a while, but now I see that.
Yeah.
You have an empty foot.
Empty foot.
But it could still be on the ground, but it could be up too. So you're standing on one foot with both feet.
Right.
But it's one of the first concepts that really didn't throw me, but it had me wondering.
So here's the funny thing. So we had discussed it earlier at our first class today. You had said, well, I'm older and X, Y, and Z and yada yada, and yeah, if I was younger. But when me having come to Tai Chi, being I think I was 8 years. So I was 29 when I came to Tai Chi, and I would try. Well, not at first, but as I got better and my leg strength increased, and I sort of was able to overcome the injury, I was able to. I couldn't understand why I was losing my balance when I tried to do these deep bow stances or deep horse stances and try to shift the weight. And it took me forever. And my teacher would tell me how to do it, but you had to feel it.
Right.
And I didn't realize that sometimes you have to stand on one foot while both feet are on the ground in order to be standing on one foot at that time. Right? You have to really root. And you're not rooted until that other foot is free. So that makes all the difference in the world. And you can feel that in the Tai Chi walk. You can feel that at all points. You're going from root to root. You're rooting in, and then that foot will free up, and then you can do whatever you want with it at that point.
And we use that concept in most moves.
And probably all the moves, but
Repulse
repulse the monkey, or some of our
That's
punches.
the one, right. But pretty much you are doing that in most movements and
Just
most
about.
exercises.
Snake creeps down, you wouldn't do it in, because despite the fact that it is a crazy sort of move where you're really dropping, your feet are rooted. You are definitely in
Both?
that position.
Okay,
Yeah.
But then to transfer to another move, you might.
That, yes. So
The
with snake
transfer.
creeps down, as you go through and come up into bow stance, you're shifting all of your weight to the fore to free it up for the back. So in the 24, in the Yan 24, when you come to the end of snake creeps down, you go straight up into Golden Rooster. All right, so you're transferring that weight from the back foot to the front foot to free up the back foot to come up. And so that's root, root, root all the way through, which is fantastic. When you play, it sounds crazy complicated now, but when you're doing it, woo, woo.
What confuses me is going from one move to the other in order. Now, I pretty much can do most of the moves individually.
Correct.
But to transfer in the proper form, like what comes after Golden Rooster stands alone, that's an easy one. That's the kick.
Okay.
But what comes next? Pull the tail of the bird.
Okay, you got that.
Okay, I got it, but sometimes I get confused in the start. Well, what comes next? I can do all 8 movements
Yes.
fairly well. Okay, yeah. But to go do them all in the proper order, I might omit one.
Okay.
I might put one in the wrong place.
Do you know when you omit, or do you know when you?
I
put it in
feel
the-
I feel as though something's not right.
Well, then you know
should,
the moves.
Should I do know the moves, but the transfer to the next move, I'm just saying with an older brain, I think it's
No.
just keep.
No. So I was in a class. This was several months ago, or maybe even a month or 2 ago. There is, and she actually comments on our videos on YouTube. I think she's 10. 10. I call her Sifu, right? Awesome. She comes with her mom to the Tuesday evening class at Spin, and I was explaining. Oh, she was being silly or whatever. And I challenged her to a push-up contest, right? She was down in the position. It almost looked like she was doing, the Cobra position in yoga. And I was like, oh, what are you doing, push-ups? And I get down on the ground, and I start knocking them out. And she's like struggling to get the first 3. It was to die for. One of the women in the class who, if I had to take a guess, is in her mid-50s, said, oh, to be young again. Well, here's the thing about that. In description of me doing the push-ups, I've only been able to do that again within 2018, within this year. At the beginning of the year, I decided to make my Tai Chi stronger. I was going to get stronger. I was going to put on muscle mass. I was going to lean down. I was going to emulate some of the Tai Chi masters that are out there right now. And I'm long, long ways away from being a master. But at the same time, if my body is stronger, my Tai Chi is stronger.
That makes a lot of sense
Right.
in any endeavor.
That's it. That's why football players condition.
You need that condition.
Right. Basketball players or soccer players, both of them, and swimmers. They're all in phenomenal shape.
You need to be in shape.
All of them.
Excel to get better.
Right. So that's where I came in. In 2017, I would not have been able to just knock out 10 push-ups just willy-nilly. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Well, I'm older in 2018 than I was in 2017. I'm doing stuff now that I wasn't able to do when I was younger. Now, when I was in my early 20s and in the Army, that's a different story, but I was conditioned that way.
You were conditioned and you pretty much had to do it. I mean, if you didn't complete the PT, you'd have to go back and do it again, or you would get extra You did it.
But it was a part of your job.
Right, it was
part of your job.
And they conditioned you. They got you.
Right up there. Broke you real quick.
Well,
I think I made it 3 nights before they broke me.
well, you were still your own man.
I was still my own man even by the end.
Even though you did belong to Uncle Sam.
Oh yeah, I had no fight left in me by the 3rd night.
But at the end of the day, you were on your own again, and you were back to, you weren't, I mean, Uncle Sam did own you, but that didn't matter, you still, you're right.
And I had a drill sergeant that said, you're still smiling. We're at the end of basic and you're still smiling. I thought I was going to break you at some point here. Well, you did. In many ways you did. You just didn't break that part of it.
You didn't take the whole thing.
Right.
I'll give you the 8 or 10 hours or 12 hours or 6 months or whatever, but the rest is mine. I didn't give all to them, but you had to give a certain amount.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well, they're going to take that.
Yes, they're going to.
Or they're going to take you back to the shop and return you.
Readjust you.
You know?
Well, that was a good thing about the military. I think they showed you how to get squared away with everything.
Yeah.
PT,
Yep.
the mental, the keeping your stuff in order. Again, they had a field manual that told you how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
There was a way to put your stuff, and I really liked that. I think at that age, when I was drafted, I kind of needed to be shown how to get squared away, and I liked it.
Well,
A lot of guys didn't. A lot of guys did not like that. They kind of liked it.
Well, it's easy because you don't have to think.
Right.
You just have to do.
You don't have to think.
Yeah.
There's a way to do it. Now, how are you supposed to put your socks in the thing? How do you put your bayonet on? There's a way to do it. This is how you do. Okay. Because when you're a kid, you don't necessarily know the proper way to make a bed or put your clothes or your weapons.
Will at the end of that 9 weeks.
Exactly. So to me, I think it helped me a lot.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You too, right?
Oh yeah, there
You
are
needed to be
things that
squared away.
I gained
Yeah.
from the military
Yeah.
that can never be taken away from me, whether I'm in uniform or not. There are things that I gained that I will never lose.
How to make friendships with anybody. Anywhere.
Anybody.
Right. You're now
Yeah.
part of the biggest and best organization in the world. That's what they told me then. Is that still true? It
Yeah, I
was.
mean,
It was then.
Listen, I'm a vet now, as
That
far as
was-
I'm concerned. Yeah.
That was 50 years ago.
I believe it.
Still the same, right?
Yeah, in many ways it is still the same. I mean, we served at different times
Mhm.
during different eras. You serving during the Vietnam era, me serving during the War on Terror.
Mhm.
And yet we have all the same stories. We went through all the same
It was
stuff.
basically the same.
Yeah.
The military
the
code
equipment
of
was some
justice.
different. Yeah, UCMJ.
Yeah, it's still the same.
You know, even though the uniforms changed, the equipment changed, the cultures remained the same.
Sure.
And that's where that's why anytime we're seeing it right now in this Cheatcast, our Cheatcast here, I like that. You get a couple veterans in the room and they're gonna ramble on about stuff, and it doesn't matter how old. I've had the pleasure of having this conversation with World War II vets. I've never been a World War I vet. I'm a little young for
I
that.
think there's many.
I don't think there's any left,
No.
actually. I know the last in Britain died within the last several years. So
When I was a kid here, there were some Civil War veterans that were still alive, but they were in their late 90s.
Oh, I can
But I
imagine,
do
yeah.
remember meeting them when I was a kid here.
Yeah.
There was like a Civil War hospital or something out here at one time, so there were some around.
right.
Only a few, but I do remember seeing. It'd be like in a parade, there would be, this guy was a Civil War veteran,
Right.
close to 100 years old.
Which
That's
was
a lot.
funny because when I joined the VFW, when I first got out, joined the VFW, and it didn't dawn on me the idea of veterans of foreign war. And the guy explained to me not that it was an issue for me. And I think he said something, I'm paraphrasing, but if you fought in the Civil War, you don't count as a veteran of a foreign war, right?
That's true.
Because you're on
You're
U.S.
like,
soil.
yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting.
That is.
right?
I didn't
Like,
never
oh,
thought of
okay.
that. And I don't want to date myself, but I do remember Civil War.
But the thing
that
is,
makes-
my dad knew people that had been slaves. Like, holy moly, like that is not, he was very tiny at the time, but he knew folk. And that really places it in perspective, it wasn't that long ago. We think we've come a long way and it was back in the ancient time, but it really wasn't. It really, really wasn't. Like, you're talking 2 generations of grandparents, right? Go back to my grandfather, go back to his grandfather. And you've got people right into the mix of these things.
Come to think of it, we never fought on foreign soil till after the Civil War.
Till after the Civil
There
War,
was
yeah.
like the Spanish.
Well, yeah, there
There
was
was a
the
couple.
Spanish, the Mexican War.
The Mexican
The
War.
American-Mexican War that we fought. And we actually did invade Mexico during that war. And half the Civil War generals fought in that war.
They did. That's how they got their chops.
Right.
Yeah.
But up to that, well, there was the Barbary Pirates, so that's going back. That's back to Jefferson. So it
that
wasn't
was at
a
sea.
straight up war,
But it
but
was at sea.
it was quite the engagement.
So I don't know that the VFW came after the Civil. It did
I
come,
don't
must
know.
have.
Yeah, must have.
Because we didn't
Must
really
have.
get too involved with other countries.
So it's
War.
by the time of the Spanish War, that's when we started projecting power. Even though we weren't the star quarterback we are today, or at least we were. The Spanish War. There haven't been any incursions on on the continental United States since then. So, because even the Spanish War, we fought in the islands. We didn't fight on
We
American
didn't
soil.
go, and we didn't go to Spain.
Correct.
We did it on the
Right.
Caribbean.
We did it all in the Philippines and in the Caribbean. Yeah. Hence why everybody in the Philippines has a Spanish last name. So, there's that.
Okay.
There is that. Which is funny, and this is totally off topic. We are gone. So I was downtown. I was down in Philly. We took a friend of ours from out of town was from out in Arizona, was out visiting us, and it just so happened that there was this Filipino fashion show going on right in the middle of City Hall. Right, so you have the open air and all that kind of stuff. But the funny thing is, it's all people from Southwest or Southeast Asia. Everybody's last name is Rodriguez, Velasquez, Cortez. You're like, wait, and it's interesting to think that the legacy of colonialism and the Spanish conquest of the high seas is still with us today. There's still reverberations from it. So then to say, sort of walking the conversation back, all right, well then now let's look at the fact that your grandfather's grandfather, or at least my grandfather's grandfather, probably fought in the Civil War, right? Or at least was around when it was at its head and of age to do so. Now all of a sudden, it doesn't seem like that far away, and that's why it's important to put things in perspective that way. But kind of coming all the way back around from there, to your point, why all you need to do is practice a little more. Practice a little more on your own, and you'll pick it up. Because the moment you get it right on your own, that's it, it's yours.
Well, I have gotten it right, but okay, the 8 is easy.
Yeah.
The 8 is easy. I'm talking about the 24. Or
They're
the
all
108.
easy after that. Well, the 108 took some time.
Yeah, okay, so
That's a volume thing.
I don't totally own the 8, but I can do it.
That's part of owning it. It's yours.
Right. But I do need to keep practicing. If I don't practice, I could lose it. You
That's it.
You got to keep with it.
Especially in the beginning.
Because it took a lot of work to get it. It didn't just happen overnight.
It's August. We've
dedication.
spent 8 months learning the 8.
Right. And I finally got it, and I'm very proud of that.
Good.
I need to polish it.
Yeah.
And I need to,
There are parts of my 8 that I need to
flow.
follow.
Your 8 looks pretty good.
Well,
But I'm trying
but it's all to the beholder, right? So you say that
Yeah.
from the perspective of a player that's been around about a year at this point, right?
I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about a year.
I'm not sure exactly when I did, but it's been about.
Yeah, so you're saying that from your perspective, whereas David Dorian Ross or Scott Cole or Bill Douglas, they may look at it and be like, yeah, you've got to fix all this stuff
yeah,
over here, you know?
that need to be fixed.
So,
I can-
and when I put out the videos, I do that knowing that I'm not perfect yet. I've got so much further to go. We all do.
we all do.
I just happen to be further along than you.
That's the beauty of Tai Chi. It's a lifelong journey.
Oh, yeah.
It's not done and then, oh, okay, I got it, I'm good. As it goes on, you learn more, you get better principles. It makes your life better.
Correct.
The longer you're with it. I'm finding it works. Tai Chi principles do work. You apply them properly.
Yeah.
And you need to come to Tai Chi to learn them. You can just get it in a book, but you kind of got to be here
Right.
and feel it.
The book stuff can come later. You already have to have a grasp on the art, and that's where the classes come into play. Somebody to guide you along in the beginning. Yeah, you can learn things. There's some good video series out there. The greatest courses with DDR.
But it's not like being in a class where
Right.
you keep going. It's not as continuous.
Right.
It stops.
And that's the thing with the videos. Either it's all movement and no explanation, or it's mostly explanation and very little movement.
And great courses do a great job of
Fantastic.
it. A great job. And I highly recommend, and I will watch it again and again.
Yeah.
Because you get more each time.
Each time.
You watch it.
But that goes back to your point earlier. Each time you took a step, each time you part the mane, each time you do brush push, you're learning it again. You're learning something new again.
Right. You learn it each time you do it, and it gets. But it was very difficult at first. At first, I felt like I had, 4 feet and 6 hands. I just was very uncoordinated and looked like a fool doing it. But
The out of water octopus.
yes, I get that now. But that's part of it. You
Right.
have to go there before you get here.
Of course.
And I watch some of the other players, and I see how the beautiful flow they have and how good they have mastered it. And that encourages me. I can do that. That's the first thing I said when I walked in the spin and I saw you do that. I said, I can do that. So I got up there and I'm ready to do it. And the first day, and I couldn't do it. But I said, I'm going to come back. And
There
I'm
it
going
is.
to, and I can do it.
Yeah.
but I need polishing.
Yeah, but you'll do it.
Yeah.
You'll do it.
Yeah.
You're talking first year, you're making your biggest leaps. To an outsider, by the end of this next year, to an outsider, you and I will not look all that different. If you stick with it.
I must say, Tai Chi is a gift. It's a gift, I think, that you give to yourself.
Yes.
You could give it to a friend, you could bring a friend, and then he could appreciate it and make it his. But it's a gift. You gave it to me, or I learned it from you. I think I gave it to myself, but it's a gift.
You absolutely give it to yourself.
Sure.
You give everything to yourself.
You do.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago when we said you experience the entire world in your head, right? So when you're in Tai Chi and I've got you in a swing posture, we're sinking and you're just in horse stance, or you're in an empty step and we've been there 30, 45, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, and we're really, and everything's shaking, and I'm up there and I'm just kind of talking you through it. At any point in time, you can quit. You can. You can take a break. I'm not going to judge you for it. No one in the room is going to judge you for it. But you stick and you stay. Why? Because you stick and stay. And there's nothing I do. You find the inspiration from it. You find that courage and that strength to do it. There's nothing to do with me. So I'm gifting myself by teaching you, because now I have a better appreciation for Tai Chi and what I do. You gift yourself by coming to class and taking what you learn and then applying it.
Again, it's a jewel. Tai Chi is a jewel. And if you realize that, you want to see all the different facets. It's a fascinating thing to look at.
It is.
And to play with. It's fascinating.
It's so beautiful.
It is
It's
very
so beautiful. It's always a pleasure to do various forms on camera, because and it's funny because when I look back at early versions of me doing the 24 or the 20 the Chen 27 or even the 8, man, do I look terrible.
I saw an early version of you on there. They're all
Yeah, they're up there. I'm
Yeah.
leaving them up there because I want people to see, and there's about a year between those two, maybe even 2 years.
It didn't look like you.
Didn't look like me. No, I wasn't moving the way I move now. I didn't have the same understanding. So my understanding has deepened over time. I've learned to relax more. I've learned more about how the body moves. I've learned more about rooting and how to keep proper form throughout. And so now I look at my form and I'm like, wow.
Relaxing is a big part of it.
Yeah.
To make it smooth, relaxing, and it's a hard concept to grasp.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm relaxed, man. I'm always relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the easiest thing to relax, but not so much the easiest thing when you're doing a form. To totally relax, something you have to work at.
So think of it like you're a doctor, right? Or you're a med student. You want to be a med student. You're taking the MCAT, right? Or you're about to take the MCAT. Well, are you going to be relaxed going into that? Like your whole future is riding on this, right? And it's the hardest test. It's either between the MCAT and the bar. I'm not sure which, but one of them is the hardest test you could possibly take. And your entire dream, especially being a doctor, right? That's usually a dream somebody has. There are plenty of people that, my dad was a doctor, so I'm going to go be a doctor. My mom was a doctor, so I have to be a doctor, whatever. But a lot of the people I know are like, I want to be a doctor because it's my dream to be a doctor. Well, your entire life is now riding on this single test. And that is the moment you have to be your coolest. You have to really relax. So
You do need to relax. If you're, you're going to get a blockage.
But that's the difference between people that test well and people that don't, I think. I think there are some learning disabilities that are in there as well. Some people just don't take the stuff off the page very well. I've always tested well, only because I never worry about the test. Like I just don't care.
Don't worry.
I care more about getting the homework in than I care about the test itself. Because if you've done the legwork, in my mind, if you've done the legwork, then the test is easy. But I have tripped. There's been plenty of times that hubris has seen me trip on a test, where I think I have it all together. And that's the other side of the spectrum, right? You can be completely not relaxed. You can be absolutely anxious, and just a ball of tension going in, and that's not good because you're directing energy in places it doesn't need to
Are
be.
you talking about tests for
No,
Tai
just
Chi
tests
to
in
become-
general. Just taking your driver's license.
But did you have to test to become an instructor?
Yeah.
There's things you
Yeah,
have
there's
to
written
pass.
tests. There's physical tests.
But us as a student, there's no test. Like in
No,
Shotokan
and-
karate, there's a test for the next belt.
So
You don't have to have that.
the American Tai Chi and Qigong Association, at the beginning, really, it's just about verifying that you've put enough time to be a player and then a practitioner and so on and so forth. The higher you get, the crazier it gets, right? You have to start showing your mastery of different forms, your mastery of different weapons, your mastery of different
So
philosophies.
there are tests. Someone is
Ooh,
going to
yeah,
watch.
Somebody's going to, it's not going to be someone,
You're
it's going to be
gonna
a lot of people.
You're going to be certified
Yeah.
to go to the next.
Yeah.
So you have to study. You have to do.
Yeah.
You have to do the work.
And understanding
They
that
don't
it's,
hand these things out like.
understand that it's an internal art as well. So there's a ton of book study. There's a ton of meditation that's involved. Reading the Tao Te Ching, understanding how its philosophies apply to Tai Chi. Reading the Tai Chi classics, knowing what the founders, the original founders, the Yang founders, the Sun and Wu founders, because it's all written into it. They've all talked about it.
And there will be a
And
test.
there will be more.
You need to know this.
But if you don't know these things, there's a difference between a beautiful dance and your Tai Chi. There are plenty of people that look beautiful doing the moves of Tai Chi, but they're dancing. There's a difference between applying the principles of Tai Chi. It's a subtle difference. Very subtle difference. Especially to the outside world. The outside world is just going to see the
Right.
move.
That's what you see. You
Right.
don't realize all the good.
And if you, the dancer, or me, I'm the dancer. I'm a ballet dancer and a professional dancer. So I watch you move, and I instantly know what you're doing, and I can mimic it. It's going to flow. It's going to work. It's going to look beautiful. But to the player, you, the player, are going to notice that there's certain things that aren't happening, right? Or there's these extra things that are happening that don't need to happen or shouldn't be happening. And that's the difference between applying your principles and just floating about. Now, it's fine to float about, especially in the beginning. Float about and have fun. Look beautiful and be proud. No judgment on that. But as you get further along, you really do have to sink into the principles themselves.
Well, if you didn't know these things, you couldn't answer my questions. And so
You're right.
far, you have an answer to all the questions.
I try.
have. So you have done your homework.
I do a lot, yeah. There's a lot of book study.
But in order for me to really get it, I got to read these books.
Well, right now, at your level, I would say mastering what you know, getting really good at what you know, is the first part. It really is. Because if you do that,
The forms.
correct.
The movements.
Correct.
right?
Because if you can
That's
master
correct.
the 8, you can master the 24, you can master the 108. It's like I said in class. If you can master the Tai Chi walk, you have mastered major principles in Tai Chi.
Principles are in that walk.
Patience, the introspection, the balance, being able to stand on one foot without standing on one foot, the shifting of the root, maintaining your alignment. When one part of the body moves at all, the entire body moves. Moving from the dantian into the root and out. The arms are just the expression. We don't even need the arms yet. Because the arms are just an expression at the end of the day. So, from that perspective, mastering it at its foundation, that's mastering it. There are plenty of Tai Chi masters, grandmasters, that have devoted themselves to the 8, the 16, and the 24. That's it. And they study all of them incessantly. And they probably sometimes know more about the principles than the masters of the 108. Now, far be it for me to say that and admit that, right? But I have met teachers that focus on this smaller form. They're also into the Chinese medicines and Qigong and all that, but they live it. They live the lifestyle. They're reading the Tao Te Ching every day. They're reading the I Ching like once a week. They're reading the Tai Chi classics, through. and through and through, and they just know it. They
Over
know
and
it.
over again.
Absolutely.
They read it, and they own the knowledge.
They own it. They
You
make
had to do
theirs.
that to a certain extent.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You wouldn't be here if you didn't.
No.
So I see you have that
No.
knowledge.
But that was the thing that opened up the world to me. In the beginning, it was just taking a class. When I understood the internal wasn't just some strange mystical place a couple of inches below the navel, but it was the whole body, understanding in the mind what the body has to do and syncing it all together as one, then Tai Chi took on a whole new shape and form.
Was that an aha moment,
Oh,
or that
God.
was like a
Oh yeah.
gradual?
When I first read the Tao Te Ching, and at first it seemed whatever, like it didn't seem to make any sense. And then I got to, and it's still my favorite chapter today, it's chapter 11. And it says you build a wheel, but it's the empty space at the axle that turns it. You carve a box, but it's the empty space within that you use. You build a house, but it's the empty space within the house that you live in. We work with being, but non-being is what we use. I was on a flight to Tucson while that was going. When I read that, changed my entire perspective on Tai Chi. I realized at that point I had been doing things incredibly wrong at that point, and this was. I think I was already teaching at this point.
That showed you the internal.
Oh yeah. All of a
Before
sudden,
that, it was
wait a
like-
second. I'm trying too hard. The being is there. That's what all the conditioning and the easy Tai Chi and the Qigong and the flexibility, and we do that and we're playing around with it. We're not stretching and all that stuff, but you're getting it through the workout. You're doing the conditioning part. So that's the being. The non-being is the Tai Chi. So, for instance, you were saying sometimes I don't remember the moves. You're trying to remember the moves. They're already there. You have to let them be there.
They are there.
They're already there. When I forget what comes next, I just let it happen. You just let it happen.
And so what if you did it a little wrong?
So we'll get it right next time.
Right. It's okay to do it wrong.
At the same time, when I'm really trying to get a form right, I'll go through it until I have a hiccup, and then I'll work it and work it and work it until I get past that hiccup. And then I'll move on and I'll have another hiccup, and I'll work it and work it and work it. And I can spend 2-3 hours doing that on a weekend. And God, is that tedious. You talk about sore when it's over. But that's one way of looking at it, one way of doing it. The other way is I'll get it next time. And I do that plenty. I'll get that next time.
I mean, to us, you see pretty much flawless 99% of the time.
Oh,
And then we're new, so we're not catching every little thing.
right.
And how do I know if you're doing the 108 and you put something out of order? I don't know.
You wouldn't. Well, this is how you know. If I end up in the wrong position at the end, you know something went wrong along the way.
But again, that's another principle of Tai Chi. Don't worry about doing it wrong.
Right? Just let
Have
it flow.
fun with it. Let it flow. Now you say let it happen. Now that's a concept that I was a little confused with.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to get it. Let it flow. So what if you get it wrong? Just keep going. Yeah. So all these principles really help. And I guess that's part of the internal, these principles?
Yeah, of course it is.
Part of the...
It's about letting go of negativity, judgment, can't do attitude, and competing with yourself instead of working with yourself, of accepting, being just open. When a child goes in the world for the first time, they don't worry about getting it wrong. They just go and
They
they
do
play.
it. They do it.
They just do. Right? When your kid, when you turn around, they got a mouthful of mud, you know. He just did.
Right.
Right? He just did.
He didn't know that was wrong.
Right.
Just going in the mud, it's fun. It's wet. It's...
Looks like chocolate sometimes.
Yeah. And it's fun. And I don't care that I got it all over me.
Right.
But then we learn now that I'm not so much want to jump in a mud puddle anymore. But I'm
we-
sure I did.
Well, we get old, and by old, I mean we get wrapped up in society's expectations of us. So no self-respecting adult would eat the mud. We're above that as civilized individuals. And I'm not saying go eat mud. Don't do that.
Although
But-
at Woodstock, that was a big thing.
That was
to
a-
slide down that muddy hill, man. And everybody was doing it.
And it's funny too, because I went to a concert recently. That you bring up Woodstock. Went to a concert, Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie. In case you're wondering what this Tai Chi teacher does in his off time, and we got great seats, right? So we're under the canopy at the BB&T Center. Great seats, probably 20 rows back, something like that. You could feel the flames from the stage and all this good stuff. But then I looked back, right, to where the yard is. There's no seating out there. It's first come, first spot.
Lawn seating.
Right, it's all lawn.
Lawns.
And you wonder, yeah, we've got good seats, but are they having more fun?
I can tell you they are having fun. I don't know who's having more fun, but there's fun up there too, on
Right.
the hill, yeah.
There's probably a lot going up on that hill.
There's a lot going on the front road too, and anywhere
Right.
in between, but I see what you're saying. What's going on up there?
Right.
Might be more fun up there.
Could be.
Did you go up to find out?
Nah, I like my seats.
Yeah, good seats. And there's a lot to be said for good seats.
Right. Well, I was there to see the concert. I am a huge fan of Marilyn Manson, and Rob Zombie. He's good to throw on too. When I write, I don't think there's a. So when I write fiction, I have playlists for the characters. Certain songs that inspire me to the personality of that character. I have very few characters that don't have, or certain playlists, certain scenes that don't have Marilyn Manson's cover of Sweet Dreams in it. And when I'm at the concert, when he did that, and that music came on, I got goosebumps when it came on. I was almost on the verge. I was on the verge of tears when it happened, which is crazy, right? We're
Well, no,
talking about Marilyn Manson
that
here.
means that you are at a good concert with something you really like.
Oh,
Because music
did I?
can bring that emotion.
And my mind opened. It flooded with inspiration on a project that I'm working, where I realized where I had been going wrong this whole time with, same as Tai Chi, right? I realized I had been going wrong this whole time with this one character, and there was an aspect of this character that had been missing. I had captured it once or twice, but to really feel the character out, to really flush him out so that he's real, he's dynamic, and you like this character, even though you're not supposed to like this character. You like this character. That just hit me. It hit me.
Right there at the concert.
Right there at the concert. And I was in the moment. And being in that moment opened my mind. And by opening my mind, I saw the face of Buddha. No. It opened it up. Whatever those blockages are there, the blockages that chemical help, alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, whatever, that writers use or artists use to get past sort of the white noise that's usually going on in our brains, what we do to meditate, what we try to get rid of when we're meditating, right? Or when we're doing our Tai Chi, that white noise kind of goes away. Same thing, only I was just in the moment with the music. And everything opened up. Everything opened up. And that's the same thing that goes on in Tai Chi. That's what you were talking about. When you go into the Tao Te Ching, when I read about, we work with being, but non-being is what we use.
Is that chapter 11?
It's chapter 11. That is
Yeah.
my penultimate chapter, right? I've got more notes on that page of the book than I have in the entire book, right? But also things like the master does her work and lets it go, and that's a theme that pops up in and out of the whole thing. You do your work, you do your job, and when it's done, you move on. You don't dwell on it, and you don't worry about the work to come. You may plan for it, You may plan for it because you do want to plan to enjoy the future when it arrives. But you don't want to live in the future. You don't want to live in the past. Live in the past, you're depressed. Live in the future, you're anxious. But you can enjoy the planning process so that when the future arrives, you can then enjoy that moment because now the future is here.
The only thing
future
that's
is the
real
present.
is now.
Correct.
The past is gone, the future's not here yet.
Correct.
Now is what's happening.
Correct. And so, for instance, one of the things that kept me in Tai Chi, and you could probably speak to it, is the fitness aspect. It's workout.
Definitely. That's one reason that got me here was I needed a workout. And I was tired of pumping iron and, running. Well, nothing to run.
Well,
I wanted
understand.
another aspect, and it's a gentle, good workout. And it has benefits.
So you're working out
I'm working out when I'm
without knowing you're working out.
It's a positive use of time. Coming to Tai Chi, and studying Tai Chi, and learning Tai Chi is a good use of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'd rather use my time wisely doing this than doing something not.
Picking up heavy stuff and dropping it.
Right.
I'm with you.
And that may be okay to do a little of that, but, I don't want that to be the main focus.
So that's my point, right? So the exercise that I do away from Tai Chi, I do it because it makes me better at Tai Chi, right?
Right.
So I enjoy it. I enjoy that moment of exercise because I know it will help me enjoy my Tai Chi better. That's the only reason. But it took me years to get to that point. And to speak to Tai Chi's fitness ability, and I think we talked about this Saturday, when I finally decided I needed a change in life. I needed to do something different. That the world that I had been living in wasn't working for me anymore. And this wasn't the first time, but I realized this was a big one. The night I decided I was going to do this for a living. Right? I was going to leave corporate America and I was going to teach Tai Chi. That night, I was probably 3 6-packs in and half a big bottle, 1.75 of vodka. Started drinking at about 11 in the morning. It was October, so it's probably 7 at night.
Close to Halloween, I
It's
bet.
pretty close to Halloween. Probably begin late September, early October.
Because you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
That's hashtag life goals, right? So I walked down to the river, and this is a darker story by far, but just to sum it all up, I walked down to the river. I realized the person I am cannot walk away from this river, right? I need a change. And if I'm going to make this change, either I jump in the river or we do this differently. Something new has to come out of this. And I did a huge review of life at that point. What were the things that made me happy? What were the things that kept me going? Writing, Tai Chi. Now, that's different from family. Family can super support you. They can be the reasons that you keep on moving. My daughter played a huge role. My partner played a huge role in me changing my lifestyle. Huge role. But the tools that I was going to need were Tai Chi and writing. So I decided at that point I was going to do that.
You love them enough to walk away from a safe corporate
job,
to do.
safe corporate job. All right.
Well, it was a paycheck.
It was a steady paycheck. It was benefits.
You walked away
It's all
from
the same.
that.
I walked away
You
from
walked away from it. To do something you love.
Correct.
That is a wonderful thing to be able to do.
It is. And listen, it was scary as all hell. And here was the thing. I couldn't just do it the next day. This was October. It would be, and I had already been training to be a teacher, but this was October. I wouldn't have my first class until April. So all of that preparedness had to go in for almost 6 months before the first class took place. So that's,
You walked away from security
woo, did I ever.
into the,
Into the unknown.
and where was that first class? Where was the first
It
class?
was right at Pleasant Hill Park. Right at Pleasant Hill Park, right by Maggie's. I think we talked about this a little bit. It was April 4th, I believe it was. And freezing cold outside. I had gloves on, I was layered. The whole night, it was just me out there. Yeah, and I held the first class.
Something you organized.
Something I organized.
You organized
Online,
this
yeah.
was your first thing. It was like a meetup type thing?
Yeah, it was right on Meetup.
Tai Chi
Paid the
class,
fee.
Pleasant Park.
Pumped it for about a month, 2 months. Started in February, said it was coming. And
Somebody showed up?
day 2, someone showed up.
Okay.
Not day 1.
It didn't start out smoothly.
Didn't start out smooth. In fact, the first 6 months, I think, as far as steady students, I had about 5 or 6.
That's hard in the winter outside.
Well, it was April.
I mean, you really have
So-
to want to do Tai Chi. I
Right.
mean,
Once.
it wouldn't really affect me, but some of the older women,
Oh, yeah.
they ain't gonna go out and do that.
Well, here's the thing. My first students were younger. I don't think I had anybody. Well, there was Jerry. Jerry showed up, but that was in the summer. Jerry was awesome. But everybody was younger. Everybody's either in their 50s or younger than me. I had a guy, he was in his 20s. I had Shane, he wasn't 30 yet, I don't believe, or he just turned 30. I had Sarah, she was in early 50s, I believe. Although I think she's about to retire. She's a school teacher, so that could be why. Yeah, so there was all these folk.
And they're still involved?
No,
Some.
it's not how that went. Out of the original cast, I think Shane's the only one left.
That was 8 years ago.
No, this was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
I bet you met some awesome people over the time of Tai Chi, because it seems you get a really great type person that's interested, that wants
Yeah.
to do that. Once you get to know them, they seem like pretty grounded.
Grounded, that's.
Well, it seems to me,
I've met some wackaloons.
I'm
but
sure, but it's mostly a positive energy thing.
the-
Good people. I would assume you meet some awesome people.
Yes. Well, they're the people that stick and stay. The best people I've met in my life, for the most part, I've met during this time period.
Well, it's a good select group,
It
I
is.
think, that are interested, that are going to do this. It's not your schlub that hangs at a bar all day. and-
Yeah, he's not ready yet. He's not ready. I used to be that schlub, so.
Okay, well, maybe we all did, but
You know?
you get away from that and you find the focus of something good,
Correct,
which is Tai Chi.
correct.
It's a good answer to, well, what should I do? What should I do with my time?
Yeah, well,
Well,
Tai
why don't
Chi,
you pursue something worthwhile?
Tai Chi's just the vessel. We're all seeking something. We can seek it at the bottom of a glass, we can seek it through our nose, we can smoke it, we can seek it through yoga, we can seek it through counseling, we can seek it through career, charity, and volunteering, and all that kind of stuff. There's plenty of ways you can go about trying to find out who you are
Okay.
and finding your place in this world. Tai Chi was the thing that worked for me,
And I tried most of those others.
and here we are.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not saying stars have to align, but I look at it in this way: finding your place in the world and finding your passion and what's going to guide you and what's going to lead you forward is like falling in love or finding life out in the universe. All the conditions have to be right. They will never be that right again. They will never be that right again. Only in this moment. Because I look at it like this, right? Everything's a reaction to something previous, which is a reaction to something previous. We talked about this once in class. When did your Tai Chi class start? And you got smart and like, when the universe came of age, right? Like, that was, and you're right, because if that doesn't happen, we are not here to do this. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Right? And now that means every decision you made up until this point led you to taking your first Tai Chi class.
Okay, yes.
If you would have made a different decision at some point, there's a good chance you don't show up to that particular Tai Chi class.
I've wanted to take Tai Chi for years, and I did many years ago, but I abruptly had to leave there. But because of working in the corporate world, I really couldn't make it happen until I finally retired, and now I have the time to do it. And that's one of the first things I did was yoga, Tai Chi. I feel as I'm on the path. This is part of the path.
Right.
If I want to continue on the path, Tai Chi is the crossroad I came to. Which way do I go? This way. Follow the Tai Chi, and it works.
Well, don't think of it as
good choice.
the path. It's your path.
Or a path.
It's your path.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Your
A
path.
path. Right.
You know?
I could have led somewhere else.
Sure.
Could have led to.
Could have led me into that river that night.
Exactly. But you took the right
I
path.
took a different path. Yeah.
And we all come to a crossroads.
Right.
You say, which way am I going to go? Okay.
And it's not to say
Okay.
that Tai Chi fixes everything. Tai Chi gives you the tools to navigate.
It doesn't make everything
It doesn't
perfect.
make anything perfect. It makes you better at handling everything.
Yeah, that's what it does. It gives you the tools to handle things better.
Right.
Instead of, chaos, let's try a little smoothness. Instead of hardness, let's try a little soft. It seems to me that does work better in life, to use those principles. It just does,
It does.
no question.
It does.
In my mind, and not everyone, I know a lot of people that say, why don't you come to this class? They're not ready. They're not ready to take that class. A lot of guys, they're resisting it. Even these guys here, I don't know why. They're not ready for this.
What's the verse in the Bible? Long is the road and narrow is the path. Few are those that can walk it.
Okay?
So it's the same idea. Each
So that's
path.
not the Tao Te Ching?
No, that's not the Tao. That's in the Bible.
But basically, they're the
Same idea. Listen. There.
It's the same idea. Each one of these books is the same idea.
Well,
It's
yeah, to a degree,
to
yeah.
help you down the path.
Yes.
Whether it's the Bible or the Te Ching.
The only difference, it's funny here, because the Tai Chi Classics makes a very big distinction between Taoist principle, Taoist philosophy, and Taoist, the religion, Taoism, right? So the Taoism part is the holidays and the traditions and the cultural heritage and all that kind of the weird stuff that not weird, but every culture has its weird stuff that's unique to it,
Yeah.
right? So the things that make Taoism, that's a part of it. Tai Chi doesn't lean from that. It leans from the philosophy of Taoism. And so in the Tao Te Ching, you find things that Socrates would have said, that Confucius would have said, that Jesus would have said, that Muhammad would have said. Pick your poison, pick your philosopher. There are these objective truths to the human experience. I use this with an asterisk, we all learn to walk, we all learn to talk, unless there's something impeding that, right? We all grow from a newborn to an adult. We all learn through observation and through relationship. We all are a product of our historical time period and the culture we were born to in that time period. There are these objective truths. We all want to be wanted. We all want to be loved. We all need food, clothing, and shelter. Those are objective truths. Without those things, you die. Any good philosophy is going to hit on many of those objective truths. Absolutely is. And so, I don't have a problem quoting the Bible when the Bible's right.
Right. It's right. Right. It's a good answer.
Right. And it's not to say that everything in the Bible is right. It's not to say that everything in the Quran is right, or everything in the Tao Te Ching is right, or nothing. There's your objective
They
truth.
try to be. I think all these classics try to show the right path.
Correct.
But who's to say that it is the right path? They're trying to for the right path.
You're right, because they are saying it from the perspective of who they are at the time.
Right.
It's the stuff that... So, you heard me say this yesterday at the BA class, or something to this this effect, which was sometimes just getting up is an act of bravery, right? That's not from the Tao. I got that from Seneca, a Roman philosopher, very little known Roman philosopher, who I happen to love. He is my favorite ancient philosopher, right? And he was the regent of Rome while Nero was killing squirrels in the yard. Right? So while for the first 5 years Rome was okay under Nero, Seneca was guiding the helm. But he was a Stoic, and he wrote letters to Lucretius, which was a friend of his. We have Seneca's side of the letters, and he's explaining Stoicism. And one of the things he talked about is sometimes getting out of bed is an act of bravery at some points in your life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? So when you're right, you're right. And one of the things I like about Seneca is he's a human. He doesn't try to be holier than that. He's an old man at that point. He talks about how he gets seasick, how he can't run as fast as he used to, and all those sorts of things. You don't get the sense of holier than thou.
Seneca was to Nero like Socrates was to Plato.
No, I wish. We would have gotten better. Think of him as, oh God, who could we use? He was the power behind the throne.
It was like the Senate of the throne, of the king, of the ruler.
Yeah.
He was like the other voice.
So you remember Aladdin?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So Jafar, how he manipulated the Sultan in Aladdin.
Okay.
It's a bad example,
Something
but kind
like
of
that.
like
He
that.
was the other voice.
Yeah,
Of the
he was the
ruling.
voice behind the guy.
Right.
Like the guy was in
But
charge.
the sensible voice.
Yes.
Like
Doesn't always go that way,
John
but yes.
McCain was the sensible voice to Donald Trump. I'm not saying that's true.
No,
but I'm just
but
saying.
you could go there,
that- Yeah, something like that.
In a sense, yeah.
He was, the
Ooh,
balance
here's
of
a
the
good
power.
one. Here's a
Balance
good
of
one.
the power.
Here's a good one. I'm no fan of Trump, but Rex Tillerson to Trump.
Okay.
There's a good example
good
of that.
Like a
Tillerson is an
reasonable.
awful person. To a degree, he's a capitalist. He is who he is, and he is whatever. Not to say that capitalism is bad, just to say
They're all
that he's like laissez-faire, kill 'em all, God will recognize his own type, right? He gets into office because he's trying to facilitate a deal with the Russians. So he's using public office for private gain. It's a bad guy. But he was one of the few people in Trump's cabinet that I honestly didn't have a problem with.
He had a voice of reason.
He had a voice of reason. He's a character that has worked with all these folks before. He knows it, he has the back, not like Betsy DeVos, who's Nimrod, or Ben Carson, who they have no business being in those cabinet positions. I didn't have a problem with Rex Tillerson. I didn't have a problem with his Secretary of Defense, Mad Dog. I don't have.
Mad Dog Mattis.
Right. I don't have an issue. I wouldn't pick them. But they're good for the job. Like, I
You need
can't
an
really argue
opposing
against
view.
them.
You do need an opposing view.
Yeah, and when you have a less than scrupulous character in the White House, you need some sort of balancing voice. And when Tillerson left, I was like, uh-oh, there it goes.
Do you think if we give this guy in the White House enough rope, he's going to hang himself?
I think he's already has.
I think that's what's going to happen.
See,
he's got to chill.
Here's Trump's
If
problem.
he kept his mouth shut, he'd probably be okay.
He never should have run for president.
No, and I think he realizes that.
Because
But he wanted it because he could.
one of the questions that keeps getting brought up is why didn't the city of New York do these investigations prior? Because he wasn't on the radar. He was just Trump. He was just the guy. He was a
Right.
celebrity. We don't care.
He
We've
was
got bigger fish to
a
fry.
reality TV celebrity.
By him running for
Wait, what?
office, he put a magnifying glass over what he's been doing all these years. We're from the area he is from. There's never been a time in my life I didn't know the name Trump. He's always been a shyster. He's always been a shyster. Right?
He was the
been a
king
con
of New
man.
York. He was
Yeah.
on top of New York,
in Atlantic
and
City,
he had it.
and
He did.
But it
And
was-
now he's on
yeah.
top of the United States.
to a degree, but you know what happens to the guy at the top?
Well, give him enough rope, and I mean that's a basic lesson we learned, and I think he better get with the program.
And he's another guy. If he would have used a softer touch,
Off touch, Tai Chi principle.
he wouldn't have these problems. he wouldn't have these problems. You think about some of the insanely corrupt things the presidents have done over the last several presidencies. Whether it's Obama charging
What did
journalists.
Obama do? People
Right.
have done despicable
Just
things
to
as
say-
president. Not Obama. I
Well-
don't see anything despicable.
Well,
Maybe wrong, but not despicable.
Not despicable. Not to that. Well, Libya, that's despicable.
Richard Nixon was despicable.
He was a despicable,
Lyndon
unscrupulous
Johnson
character.
was despicable.
Uh,
Obama, I don't see that he did anything despicable.
okay, all right. But him, Bush, obviously.
Bush did something pretty despicable.
Clinton deregulating Wall Street. Strangely, George H. Walker Bush, I don't feel like he was there long enough to.
He didn't do much.
Didn't do much.
Clinton didn't kill anybody.
Well,
Bush did.
There were a couple of
Nixon
bombs he
did.
robbed, but
Yeah.
there's no president that doesn't have blood on their hands, right? At this point, I mean, Trump was in office
Sure.
a week and he killed that poor American girl in Syria with the bombing raid, right? Killed 9 people or 11 people or something of that nature. So there isn't a president without blood on their hands, and that has always been the one thing. Like the type of person you've got to be to want to be president of the United States, because you've got to be willing to send your countrymen to kill other people and have many of them die in the
To
process.
their death. You sending
Correct.
young men to their death.
Correct. You've got to be okay with that.
He didn't really think it through, did he? I don't think.
Who?
Trump.
No.
I don't think he thought it through. He wanted to be president, okay, but there's too much blood that can get on your hands.
He's
I
too
don't
much of
think
a
he was
con man. He had too many. He just had too many competing things
He's
going
a con
on.
man, a good one. He conned the American people to get him to be president. He
I mean,
is president.
I personally, I actually don't want to see him impeached.
I do not want to. That's going to
Because-
create more chaos.
Right. I don't want to see him. If you wanted to beat him fair and square in the election. Done.
Let him finish his term.
All right.
Let somebody else have a shot and let him fade into his.
Right. Fade into
But-
the oopsie part of our
Right.
country's
Whoops,
history.
we made a mistake.
But here's the funny thing
They're not
about
going to
it.
let it go. I don't think they're going to let. They're going to impeach him. I think
Maybe.
they're going
Well, the
to.
Democrats aren't talking about impeachment. The Republicans are
Yeah.
not going to impeach
Give him
him.
enough rope.
It depends on what they get him on, though. It really does.
Well,
it really does.
So
'Cause-
far, he really hasn't been charged with any crime.
No.
It's not a crime to date a porn star or a playwright.
Right. And at the end of the day, that honestly doesn't matter.
It doesn't, and that was what, 10 years ago?
But
Or
it's funny
however,
because
it
it's
doesn't
never
matter.
on the stuff that matters that gets people. It's on these weird technicalities. It's the Al Capone thing, right?
Right.
You get it for tax evasion.
He wasn't a tax evader, he was a gangster, but they got him on tax, he did evade tax. That's where
Yes.
they're gonna get Trump. I think
Attila
they're
the
gonna
Hun
get
had
him.
less blood on his hands than Al Capone.
They're go,
And they got Al Capone on tax evasion.
right,
Right? So you didn't get him for what you wanted, but you got him off the street.
but you got him.
Right?
That's how they
So
think
that's
they're
how
gonna
they're
get
going
Trump.
with Trump.
I think.
And
And I
but
hope
at
they
the end
just
of the
wait
day,
out of term.
yeah, just let him do his
Yeah,
thing.
let him do it, man. You're only
Because
gonna
here's
create
the
more
thing.
chaos.
Here's the
if you
thing.
do.
He's a bumbling fool. He is. I don't care who you are or how much of a
He's
Trump
done
supporter
some
you are.
bubbling, he's done some bubbling
He is a
statements.
reality TV star, and that's exactly what we've got.
And that's what we voted
What
in.
we don't want.
Y'all voted.
So what he is a talk radio host spouting talking points, but he's in power. He hasn't affected real change. There was the tax cut, but that was more Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell than it was Trump, right? That's always been in the works,
Give him a little credit.
right? He signed it.
Okay,
right.
so
A Democratic
We'll
president
give him
probably
that. We'll
wouldn't
give him.
have signed it.
We'll give him.
He signed it.
He did some
That's good.
good.
He found the pen. That's something.
He can sign his name.
Listen,
He's
I
done
was-
a few things. And listen, we needed to address our borders. We needed to address our economy. We needed to address
Sure,
a lot of
things
to
need
address.
addressing.
Needs
It's listen.
The
I
way
say it
that
like
you want.
this.
A wall, a Mexican wall, is not going to
That's
solve.
not the way you're going to do it, right?
It's not going to solve immigration. It's
No.
not.
Well, here's the thing. You can be right on a topic for the wrong reasons. You can absolutely be right on a topic for the wrong reasons. You know, when it's all right, we need to make sure that we have a border. We are a country.
Can't just let anybody
Well,
come in.
And,
Can't let criminals
and what I'm
in.
going to say is this is not my opinion. I just understand the other side of things, right? We need to define the border. If we don't define the border, then we don't have a nation state. If we don't have a nation state, then what the heck are we doing,
Right.
right? And if people are just coming in and out, whatever.
Well, that's okay, but we can't have criminals coming. We can't be a haven for criminals.
I
And if we
understand.
don't tighten it up.
But
they're coming
that's again, that's one of I feel one of the talking scare tactics is, oh, well, there's criminals, or they're diseased, or they're this.
It
And
is a scare.
every bigot, every xenophobe has always used those arguments. If you want to say, okay, I'll give you a historical faction. We're going long on today's Chief-Cast.
We got Chief Flow.
Yeah, it's just flowing today.
It's flowing.
It's good. There's plenty to work with. Julius Caesar, he comes to power. He seizes power. And one of the first things he does is he talks about freeing a bunch of slaves, because half of the economy, half of the jobs were going to slaves. Well, that means half of the empire that's unemployed is unemployed because of slavery, right? So if we free the slaves, or we limit what occupation slaves can work in, and slavery for the Romans was much different than our antebellum slavery here. But even still, slavery is slavery.
Slavery.
And
Human beings.
Yes, bending them to your will against their own and all that kind of stuff for your own personal gain. And him's like, all right, we're going to get rid of slavery for the economy. Not because slavery is wrong, but because the economy, right? Lincoln, same thing. I'm going to abolish slavery where I need to, because the Emancipation Proclamation abolishes slavery in states in revolt against the Union. So if you were in Tennessee, if you were in Iowa, if you were in West Virginia, which were slave states at the time, those slaves weren't free. Those slaves were not freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. If the state was in revolt, that slave was now granted their freedom. So he didn't do it for the right reasons, but he did the right thing.
He didn't abolish slavery.
Right.
But he did, and he set some free.
Right. And then once the war was over, they passed the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. They did the right thing then. Right. But initially, that was not the case. So you can be right on a topic for the wrong reason. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So that's not the. So if you worry about nation states, if you worry about, and I think some of my politics is coming out now, you worry about those types of things, and you're right. If you can't define and defend your border, then you're not a nation state, right?
We do need to address our borders.
But here's a way of doing it. Here's a simple way of doing it. If you're crossing over and you're looking for migrant work, or you're seeking asylum, we have stations. You don't have to cross the desert. We understand. It's fine. Come over. We'll register you. We need work. We need work all over this country. If you're here just for seasonal work, we'll assign you a location in the country to go to. You go there, you work for your season, and then you can take the money back to Mexico, whatever, or wherever you came from. I don't want to just throw Mexicans out here. Or you go back wherever you came from. We have tons of seasonal workers that come from Eastern Europe and Russia during the summer that work the boardwalks, right? So
They work in the.
that's fine.
Beach towns.
Listen, short of murder, right, and a few other things, rape and child molestation and stuff, you have to ask yourself why something is illegal, right? And when something is illegal, you push it underground. You don't stop it from happening. It's never been legal to murder in this country, but people get murdered every day, right? So the law itself doesn't stop anything. So saying it's illegal to cross the border, well, one, I'm not a citizen of your country, so until I cross your border, your laws don't affect me.
But it wasn't illegal for us to cross into Mexico, but it was illegal for the Mexicans to cross
that
into.
was war, that's fine.
No, this was not that long ago.
Oh, no, I agree.
You
can cross back
and
and
at
forth.
night, you could walk right across.
Oh,
You-
yeah.
You could wade across.
From San Diego to, like,
Rio Grande
Tijuana,
with a
yeah.
mule full of whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you say it's bad and people feel they need to, they're going to sneak in. You're going to catch a fraction of them. They're going to sneak
Right.
in. They're going to do what
are-
they got to do.
Listen, they
people are going to
they're
survive.
very good at tunnels, and they know how to use a ladder.
Any people are. If this becomes a dystopian thing, you're going to be the best walker to Canada you have ever seen.
It's just symbolic.
I hear
It's
you.
not going to stop.
It's
And
not
plus,
gonna stop
They
anything.
can't do every mile with a fence.
So here's your Tai Chi.
The-
If you can't beat them, utilize it. Utilize. That's the soft approach.
Okay, use
You
that.
have stations. Okay, so you're here. You don't have papers. Fine. Check in with us. We'll find out who you are. We'll do the
If we
background
find
checks,
out
whatever.
you're M13 or
Yeah, whatever,
if
MS-13
you're a-
or whatever.
Yeah, if you're a gang member, sorry, man, we don't
Right.
need that.
And that's
But if
easy
you wanna
enough
come
to do.
work, okay.
Or if you're seeking asylum. I don't don't have a problem with that. You're escaping domestic violence. You're escaping a bad neighborhood. You're escaping anything. We do that all the time in this country. You're born in a bad part of town, or you're born in a bad town, and you work your way out of it to go move somewhere else, right? People do that all the time. It's natural. The problem is when we start thinking of these people as the others. They're not the others. They're people.
Right.
They're people
They
like
are
you
people. Let's not
and
forget that.
me. They have the same desires, the same
They want
wants.
a better life.
They're not even a they. We need to get that idea of the they out. These are people. They are you. They are me.
But his point is, if we don't do something, they're all going to come
No,
up
they
there.
are not.
Because they're
That
all
is
living
a
in dangerous
myth.
neighborhoods.
That is a
And
myth,
there is
and it's
no
not-
work.
Okay,
Not all, but
okay.
a lot.
Okay.
We saw the influx,
Yeah, of children. Of children.
escaping bad situations.
Yeah. All right. So here's the idea.
We went to Iraq and invaded to save the country.
You just answered my question for me. Why is South America the way it is? Because of us. Our drug war, CIA intervention, wanting unstable banana republics down there so there is no competition to the United States. That is why.
Because we armed
So
them, we armed the rebels.
we created the problem.
We did.
Send 2nd Marine down to the border of Mexico, use the Mexican regulars, squeeze out the cartels, crush them, done. Now we can rebuild. We can pump a bunch of money in to Mexico. They've got oil, they've got gold, and they've got agriculture. They're a great trading
Cheap
partner.
labor.
Yeah, well, they've got migrant labor. But if they have their own middle class, guess what they're not doing? They're not coming over here. There are not truckloads of people from Norway busting down gates to get here. Canada isn't influxing into the United States.
Good solution.
All right?
Yep.
So fix it at its source.
Fix it.
Fix it at its
Fix
source.
it.
It comes to going right back in the Tai Chi principle
We
here.
broke it. Now
It's-
we should fix it.
Get to the root. It is the root. If you don't have your root, then you have nothing. And if you don't go to the root of a problem, then you cannot fix it. You are putting Band-Aids on bullet holes.
Putting Band-Aids.
Putting Band-Aid on bullet wounds.
Gaping wounds.
Yeah, that's it.
That's true.
That's
I
it.
agree. I agree.
So from that perspective,
You gotta
you
fix
can.
that.
My true perspective is this, and this changed my life. Look up two things: Earthrise, okay, Earthrise, and the pale blue dot. Look those two things up. They are pictures of Earth from different locations. One being when the 1968 Apollo mission, I think it was Apollo 8, came around the backside of the moon, and as they were coming up, they were able to take a picture of the Earth rising in the moon's horizon. It was the first picture we ever got of Earth.
See that it was blue.
Yeah.
We never really saw that before.
Oh, and we saw the
We
sphere.
were never
and-
there in a position to see
But
it.
it's just this tiny little thing,
Blue,
right?
the blue dot.
Now, take it 30 years, 25 years into the future. And as Voyager 1 is getting ready to leave the solar system, or leave the planetary solar system, it's passing Neptune. Carl Sagan gets the idea of turning the cameras of Voyager back towards Earth and taking a snapshot of what Earth looks like from Neptune. We're still in our star system. We're still local, especially cosmically speaking.
We're in our solar system.
Yeah, we're in our neighborhood, right? We're on our block, right? It's called the pale blue dot. It was 4 pixels of this picture suspended in a sunbeam. That's it. Every person, and I'm stealing from Carl Sagan here, every person you've ever heard of, every romance that ever took place, every book ever written, every language spoken, every jilted lover and verbose politician and dictator in general, and all the rivers of blood that have been spilled were so a person could have control of a momentary instance of time over a fraction of a dot.
Yeah.
Now, you take that perspective, you take the cosmic, you take the Tai Chi perspective here. The entire universe is one. We're all connected. And we are. No woo-woo here. Scientifically, we are connected. The molecules that make you who you are, the atoms that construct you, were all forged in the hearts of stars. All of them. That fusion that's going on.
We are made out of that.
The star stuff.
Those elements.
And the atoms in this hand could be from a different star than the atoms in this hand. We don't know. Because the universe was a much smaller place at one time. All the chemicals that we know of came out of those atoms and were mixed on this planet. The chemistry of this planet was mixed right here, right? Every living thing comes from DNA. We all have a universal ancestor. Every living thing on this
A
planet.
blueprint.
Yeah. Comes from whatever that ancestor is, that little microbe, whatever it was at the time. We evolved. The cows, the squirrels, the corn, the trees, us, all evolved from this one source. We are connected to everything in this world, living biologically. We are connected to the planet chemically, and we are connected to the universe atomically. We are a part of this. We don't live in excess of the universe or separate of the universe. Not only do we live in the universe, but the universe lives in us. So if you can't distinguish, you can't find the planet Earth from you couldn't find the planet Earth in the sky if you were on Mars, the next closest planet. So if you're going to make fights and kill people and subjugate folks because they come from this side of the river and not your side of the river, no, that's all meaningless. That is petty, nonsensical stuff. It would be as if the skin cells on your knuckle went to war with the skin cells on your knee. And that's my soapbox.
And yet we're all different. We all came from
And
the
we
same.
are, just like every
just a little
skin cell.
different. We're not a lot different.
No.
We're basically they're the
No.
same, but each individual is just a little different than the next.
Absolutely.
Times a billion, times a billion. How many
Sure.
people on the earth? And we're all a little bit different, but we all came from the same.
You're right.
To
Let's do it.
okay, I mean we have people that have things to say.
Yeah.
We have vocal people.
Absolutely.
That,
I have a guy he just published a book. I want to get him on here so he can promote his thing and all that. I want to use this Tai Chi big thing. Like we just said, dealing with Tai Chi is everything. The idea of the Tao. Everything is the Tao and the Tao is everything. I look at the Tao as if it's the universe and we're all a part of it. And Tai Chi, everything is about community with Tai Chi. It's about community. You can do Tai Chi in the park by yourself, sure, and I do often. But it's so much better when you've got so many people with you.
And each individual is an interesting person
Yep.
that is now a friend,
Yeah.
or at least an acquaintance, a friend. I would assume everybody, once you get to know them,
Yeah, absolutely.
and it's a better class of people than you're going to find in other
It's a different
avenues.
class, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I stay away from the idea of better.
Well,
but
okay, maybe not
They
better,
are
but-
my type of people.
yeah, not necessarily better,
Yeah.
but they're good people. I don't see any stumble bumps around here.
No, and I don't think you will. I don't think you
You ain't
will.
gonna allow it.
There's a
You're gonna
certain
shut the door.
people flush themselves out. is
You've
what
had
happens.
maybe some
I've had
riffraff
plenty.
blow through.
I've had some people that I was surprised stuck and stayed,
Mhm.
but nobody that I have ever looked at and like, you're not going to make it, has ever made it. You know, I've been on the fence with a few people. They tend not to make it. And it comes out of nowhere.
Well, what does make it mean? Stay for
Stick and
6
stay.
months?
Stick and stay. When it becomes what you do, when you get past year 2 and you're still going strong, and you look at your week and you have dedicated time. This is when I do Tai Chi.
Right, I have that
You,
time.
now you're in, and that takes a little while. At the 6-month point, yeah. If you're not completely committed to yourself, you're probably going to drop out by then. But I've had people the last year. I have people that swam in, swam out, and you take them as they come. And maybe that's what they need at that moment in time. They just need those Tai Chi lessons. Great, they get what they need and they go about. I like living on the river and drinking from it, so I'm there all the time. You, same way. You take a lot of classes during the week, and you set time aside. You're doing this. You could be doing, some you could be leaf bathing somewhere.
Okay.
Instead, we're here, we're doing a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
it's all grand and good.
I'm happy to be part of this Tai Chi. Whatever I could do, what's my role here as a student? Well, to learn Tai Chi. But if I can help with a Chi cast.
The Chi cast.
That is cool.
I love it. So, all right. Well, I do think we should wrap up because lunch is calling. Lunch is calling, and I do have to have another class that I've got to do.
So you pretty much have classes every day somewhere?
I take Wednesdays off. That's my day. Well, what I'm going to do now is on Wednesdays I'm going to record a workout. So I'll mic up, I'll turn the camera on, and for 45 to 50 minutes I'll work out, and that way, and I'll conduct the class, but I'll conduct it to the camera. So if you want to get a workout, then you can go to YouTube and do that workout.
You mean a Qigong, Tai Chi?
Qigong, Tai Chi, like what we do in class. Similar to what we do in class.
Okay.
And I have different levels, different focuses. Maybe we'll focus on the backs one day, we'll focus on cardio another day, we'll focus on meditation one. I don't know. I'm just gonna let the chi flow.
But that hasn't happened yet. But
so I'm gonna try and, if weather permitting, I'm gonna do the first one tomorrow.
Outside
of Glen Ford. Yeah, outside of Glen Ford, and then each week you get another workout.
It's going to be 109 degrees tomorrow.
Is it really?
Well,
it's going to feel like it.
Give or take.
Well, I'm going to get out early.
Yeah.
While the sun is still
that
low in
doesn't
the sky.
that doesn't really.
No, it doesn't
stop
affect
anything.
us here.
It's not gonna
Yeah.
stop. I mean, it's warm. It's summer. Fine.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you'll be in the shade.
Well,
You don't want to be in the sun.
No, I'm going to be right there at Glen Ford.
But what's
when we work
100?
out.
What's 105 in the shade? I mean,
I'll tell you what it
happens.
is. It's nice to look out your
Summertime.
window.
Yes.
In the air.
Yes, but it is summertime,
Yeah.
and it's not going to last. It's going to be getting cool. So
And I can't wait for it. I love the fall.
fall's great.
I love
So's the
fall.
summer. I hate to see the summer go.
You know,
but-
each season has the thing that has a couple of things
Sure.
that I love. When it comes to fall, I love the food. I love the holidays. I'm a huge Halloween fan. And it is a major celebration at my house, right? Maybe not, I wouldn't say bigger than Christmas, but on par with it.
What about Mexican Halloween, the Day of the Dead?
Day of the Dead.
That seems to be a pretty big
fun.
celebration.
Yeah.
I have not been
Yeah.
in Mexico for that, but I'd like to go.
Yeah, it's
I think
fun.
we could maybe swing it.
I don't think we can. We'll do Tai Chi, we'll do the Chi cast for
Well,
the
it's
Day of the Dead.
It's what? 3 days west, man.
But here's the thing, and yeah, Tai
I mean,
Chi,
right.
Day of the Dead, why not?
I mean, I'd like to experience that. It's kind of like doing a Mardi Gras, doing New Year's Eve at Times Square.
We'll bring some Chi beads.
We need, yeah. I mean, I think I need to do that, man.
and all they have to do is do the 8 with us. We'll give them the beads, and they do the 8 with us, and then they get the beads.
It's a fun thing. A little scary, but fun.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I look at it as that's the one thing about community and about Tai Chi and about all the walks of life. Like you said, yeah, a little heated conversation today. I like that.
It did.
But it's a part of me. It's part of who I am.
I'm very passionate
that.
about
Yeah.
that. That was good. That came out, man.
Yeah.
I saw passion. I heard it. Wow, good.
But a lot of times, what happens is you think about these gurus and these spiritual leaders, and you think, oh, they're always almond and they're always in meditation. No. If you meet a guru, they tend to be prima donnas, right? They tend to be just like you and I.
You're not talking about Gandhi. You don't think Gandhi smacked?
Gandhi had his flaws. Martin Luther King had his
Oh,
flaws.
Martin Luther King.
Right?
I guess they all did.
Yeah,
But
they're
the
human
image of
beings.
Gandhi was
Well, we
totally
have.
opposite of that. But he was a human. He was a human.
He was a human
being.
being with human faults and
Yes.
human faults and human frailty.
And aren't we all?
Same. I remember, and this was the book that inspired me to be a writer and a historian, was Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, right? And I at the time, I was an evangelical fundamentalist Christian. I was in the army, and everybody's reading the Da Vinci Code. So I got a copy and I read it, and it was a great journey. And then I got to the end, and the spoiler alert for a book that's 15 years old. The woman that the protagonist had been with the whole time turns out to be the child or a descendant of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And this sent me through the roof. Sent me through the roof. Why? I look back at that. So what he's saying is Jesus got married and had a kid. And the Pope wanted to burn the book for them. I think we had Benedict at the time, so good, strong German Pope. And why did that get me so upset? Because Jesus was human, right? But it upset
he was
the
human.
world. It upset the world. That how dare he write that Jesus have a child? How dare he write that Jesus fall in love?
The perception of Jesus is he isn't human.
We have
but he was human.
romanticized this figure to the nth degree, which now it then detracts. It's how we've gotten these squeaky clean politicians that are the most corrupt members of our society, right? Romney in his personal life is an amazing person. He's a great family man. He's good to his children. He's good to his wife.
Mormon.
He's a Mormon. Mormons are great. I mean, in their personal
they
life,
have
the
a
Mormon
good
ethos
philosophy,
is pretty good.
Yeah.
They've got some fundamental issues, institutional
Special
racism
underwear.
and all that kind of thing. You know what?
They wear
Special
magic
underwear.
underwear or something.
Just don't try and dodge bullets, you know. But what he does 9 to 5 every day with his company, basically just coming in and sweeping out companies, destroying them, and taking
Ravages
the
people's
profits.
lives.
Yeah, you're a monster. I don't like the idea that we've built that you can be a great person in your personal life and be an absolute monster in your profession.
Well, what threw him was he put his dog on the roof. Well, I think that had a lot to do with it.
It might have. But my point is, Obama, great family man, great husband, no personal issues whatsoever, or personal scandals while he was in office. Okay, cool.
Great spokesman,
Yeah.
great diplomat,
But-
respectful.
But he didn't give us the health care that he promised. He started that war in
Was
Libya.
that his fault that he couldn't get it through? He tried.
He had a filibuster-proof Congress for 2 years, did nothing with it. So,
Right, so you're going to blame him?
yeah, I'm going to blame him because it was the Democrats who were fully in charge.
Okay.
What we have right now, they had more of in 2008. They had more power than the Republicans have right now, and he failed to get anything done at that time. That was the least decent time that he had. He worked some stuff out in Wall Street and all that kind of thing, but Libya, disaster.
I thought they blamed Hillary for that. They blamed
Well, he
Obama.
was the president at the time.
So then why are they blaming Hillary? Then
Yeah, 'cause
buck
she-
stops at the top.
We came, we saw, he died.
What do they
That's
say? Rolls
why.
uphill.
Hey, this rolls downhill. All right, so we got that. We got the fact that he did very little for the minority communities in the country.
He was obstructed in everything
Again,
he
he had
did.
2 years of no competition,
They even said,
and was sure.
we're not going to pass any.
But
and
the
they
only
didn't.
reason the Republicans got back into office is because the Democrats failed to do anything.
Okay.
It's the only reason. He took over. They swept in 2006, and he became president in 2008. They had carte blanche. They had a mandate because Bush was so bad. What happened in 2 years? How did you go from getting a mandate to then being kicked out of office and the Republicans gaining the majority in both the House and the Senate?
And nothing got done. They didn't accomplish.
They didn't accomplish anything. The Democrats got into office in 2006, took over the House, took over the Senate, and their first act after campaigning against the war was to increase the funding for Iraq and increase the troop surge for Iraq and give George W. Bush whatever he wanted. You campaigned against him to get into office, then you gave him whatever he wanted. You're the opposition party.
That's our system.
And that's the problem.
That's why it's not working.
He also lost 1,200 seats in the State House while he was president. All right. So if you were doing your job, your party wouldn't have gotten its teeth knocked down. He basically left the DNC to its own devices, and they're as corrupt as they come, and don't know how to win. Right. So he made a lot of missteps. He prosecuted journalists under the Espionage Act. Spying on the Associated Press, using drone strikes. You're still a monster. You're still a monster. Now, you can be less of a monster than Trump or Bush, but you don't get points for that. You're still a monster. And that I think, is the intellectual honesty. Call things, well, like we say in Tai Chi, don't do what it looks like, do what it is. Right? And that's called intellectual honesty.
He's the only president that got health care passed. And all they did was beat it to death.
Yeah, they did.
Why don't we fix it? Why don't we use the Tai Chi principle softly to tweak it so it works? All they wanted to do was get rid of it.
Well, yeah.
And they did.
Part of it was he did it, so they wanted to get rid of it. Yeah. I love the fact that we have to get rid of healthy lunches because it was an Obama thing.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
We don't want to help our poor and old and weak people.
Right.
We want to kick them down and raise their rates. Come on.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%.
That wasn't Obama. Obama tried to make it right.
But
he had too much opposition.
So here's the thing. Let's take it back to something away from politics. Let's go back to when the Eagles faced the Rams in the NFC Championship game. First year the Eagles are doing their thing.
Finally made it to the
NFC Championship game after 12 years of a drought, right? And suddenly we've got McNabb, we've got Reed, we've got Westbrook, we've got Dawkins and Trotter and Corey Simon and all those guys. It's fantastic,
we got
right?
the juice.
And we're young.
Get it done.
This is the first Super Bowl Tom Brady wins that year, right? So we're right there in that growing, burgeoning group of new teams. And what happens? Second snap on the Eagles side. Donovan McNabb drops the ball. Literally drops the ball.
When he puked?
He fumbles it. He puked later in that. No, that was the Super Bowl. That was the next year. That was 3 years later that he would do that. But he takes the snap.
That's as good as puking.
He rolls back. Ball drops from his hand. It's picked up on the Rams side. I think it was pretty close to the end zone. The Rams score. Or they prevented the Eagles from first or second snap of the Eagles having the possession. Okay, they end up losing that game. Well, it all goes back to that. Now, everything, sure, you could have made up and all that thing, but that's how it started. That's what ultimately would cost you the game. Because the score was close enough that we could have won.
One bumble could cost.
One bumble. So you have to take advantage, right? That's the difference between everybody else and Tom Brady. And I'm no Brady fan, but greatness is greatness when it's there, right?
He's a Super Bowl champion times
6, right?
6.
Yeah, times 6. It would have been 7 this year.
I don't think anybody beat that.
No. I think they tied Pittsburgh.
You got to give him
I think they tied Pittsburgh. Or they're tied with the Cowboys.
He's great.
He is. He's fine.
Yeah.
They're either tied for second with San Francisco, the Cowboys, and themselves.
And he does it.
Or they tied with the Steelers.
Very
I forget
cool.
what.
He's very cool about
Very
it.
cool.
He's not like a bumbling, horrible person.
Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe goes down. Drew Bledsoe's hurt. The only reason Tom Brady gets on the field is because the guy is hurt. Right? That's not up to him. It happens in the middle of the game. He's on the field. Suddenly, you're riding pine, calling plays. Now you're in the game. And what does Tom Brady do that year? Wins the Super Bowl. Oh. So when you have the opportunity, you take it. And if you don't, well, then guess what? Then you messed up.
Yeah.
So the same thing applies in all facets of life. And if Obama had the chance in the first 2 years to do whatever he wanted, and he didn't get any of it done, that's on him.
Okay.
right? And as a politician, you should be able to work with the opposition. Now, granted, the Republicans changed the game during the Bush administration. So, but as a politician, as a leader, you should have recognized that the game had changed. You should have recognized that the blood you had been playing with all these decades, they wanted for real now. This wasn't this wasn't bluster on the hill and deals in the back room anymore. This was, we hate you, we're going to stop you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Watch us. And we don't care who it hurts in the process. Because that's what they had been told for 30 years, since the Reagan era, since the Nixon era.
It hurt the American people. The ones that voted
They don't
in.
care.
They don't.
They
They
cared
don't care.
about it. I love that self-made man. You all inherited your wealth. None of you is self-made. You all suck. Get out of here. But,
Well, yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, at the end of the day, calling it what it is helps us make sure we fix it the next time.
Well, we hope we learn from our mistakes and make
Let's
it right.
hope.
Then. Let's
Let's
hope.
hope. And what we could have done, because Obama was a great step, he really was, and he had a lot of potential. He just didn't make good on it. That's why we have Trump. If Obama would have nailed it, just nailed it, and you would have had universal health care, right? Let's say he gets that passed, Bernie Sanders style, and people at that point, come 2016, have had health care. Everybody in the country has had health care for 6 to 7 years, and some yahoo comes in saying they're going to take away the health care. Good luck.
Right.
Good luck getting that
He
done.
would never have got elected.
No, the Republicans, they would have had to change their platform because he halved it. And did give us Romney Care, the program Romney gave us, or gave Massachusetts. Yeah, they had nothing. The Republicans don't have a problem taking out one of their own policies because it's under the name of the other party. So they can dismantle it, and it's not a problem. And they can turn around and give you the same health care bill. In fact, Mitch McConnell campaigned on the Kentucky Medicare, Medicaid, whatever, their health, but it's the Affordable Care Act. He campaigned on the Affordable Care Act to get reelected in his last election. Mitch McConnell.
Right. Scoundrels.
But
They're all
then
scoundrels.
he's tearing it apart on Capitol Hill. So there you go.
So we
Call
got-
it what it is. Do what it is, not what it looks like. Right? Yes, Obama polishes very well. Okay. But what does that mean?
He was a good orator.
Yeah, that's great. There's been plenty of. Hitler was a good orator.
Well, apparently he was.
Okay.
Everybody followed
He was a great orator.
right into the line.
I wouldn't say he was in top 10 best leaders.
He could speak to a crowd. He could sway a crowd.
Get them riled up, man. I don't know if you've ever watched the Leni Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will, even if you understand German or not. But it's a propaganda piece for the Nazis back in the day. When you're done, even though you're watching Hitler and Himmler and Göring on stage and you're seeing the Nazi youth and all, by the time you're done watching that, you feel like you missed a party. You know what happens. You know what this leads to.
It ended badly,
But
it was a party.
just being in that moment,
Yeah.
yeah.
The polish.
You're like,
and
oh,
the pomp and
I missed something. You know, these people were a part of something big. Granted, this is 1934, so he hasn't gone off the rails yet. I mean, he had, but he hadn't governed off the rails yet. So yeah.
He came from nothing.
Yeah, he did.
Became the.
By all states and purposes, I got in so much trouble when I was doing my undergrad stuff. My senior paper, I did an essay on an alternate history where in 1938, prior to Germany, I think just after the Germans had taken the Sudetenland, Himmler, Göring, and Hitler get on a plane from Frankfurt to Berlin. The plane crashes. They're dead. 1938. So that means there's no invasion of Poland, or at least there shouldn't be. Hitler doesn't invade Poland. Or if Germany does, he's not the one to call the order, yada, 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 right? what would that look like? How would we perceive Hitler if he hadn't done the Holocaust, if he hadn't done World War II, and all that insanity that he's known for? This is a guy that came up in the ranks, he was a corporal, got wounded twice on the battlefield in World War I, got snubbed by school, was passionate about his country, rose through the ranks of his party, went to jail so he could soapbox instead of taking the easy road out. He wanted to be on record, wrote his thoughts in jail, gathered his movement in jail, came back out, is appointed chancellor, and then takes over the country. And then, during those first 5 years, builds the Autobahns, builds the Volkswagen, the first Super Environmental Protection Act. He does the Animal Rights Act. He does those. The guy's a vegetarian. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't drink. He's charismatic. And he wants to strengthen Germany again after the raw deal they got from the Treaty of Versailles. You kill him in 1938, there are statues to Hitler all over Germany. Statues. And I wouldn't be shocked if the fascist party would have taken hold permanently in the United States and in Europe. But it's because of what happened afterwards that ultimately he's demonized the way he is. And he should be. Absolutely should be. Because that takes a different level of hatred to do what he did. The industrialized genocide of folk. It's
His
insane.
hatred is still alive today. These white supremacists are
Transcends
Nazis.
the generations, man.
Yeah. And that's one thing we don't need is hatred.
Right.
I don't think we should have that. I mean, they shouldn't allow it. They are
Like
not.
the hate speech, you know?
They are not. They shouldn't have the right to assemble and have marches and all. If they're about hate, because
I understand.
this is what's wrong with the world.
Well, here's the thing. Again, going back to the source. Why do they think this is a good idea? What is it about their platform that draws them to it? And what can you change?
The
What can
Nazis.
we change? Yeah, the white supremacists and all the Charlottesville crew. There's a reason they're doing this.
Yes, there is.
What is the reason?
Racism. I think.
Right, why are they racist?
Because they're following Nazism. And
Why?
Well, that's a good question. Because they're disturbed people. You and
Some of them.
No, I think pretty much all of them. They have hate. You and I aren't following that. Why? All these people that we know, I can't explain what it is, but I think they have a problem. They're deranged people. Nobody goes after hate. Nobody goes after violence.
But do you think that that's how they see it? Do you think they see that it's hate? Do you think they see that it's violence, or do you think that they see that it's defense?
Okay, they're defending their superiority.
Yeah.
They're afraid. They're fearful that somebody's going to take away
Right.
their superiority. Doesn't make it right.
No.
It's wrong. It's
No, it
just
doesn't.
wrong. And to allow it, I think is wrong. We need to put the kibosh on that. We don't need that in this
So, but
world.
here's the thing:
we need love and peace.
And the
not
reason I say that,
violence and
if you can address why they are the way they are, then that stops the speech. That stops the hatred. You can't force that. They will give it to their children will give it to their children. You will be chasing it forever,
But-
trying to squash it.
It's a very small minority of people,
You're right.
but it's enough to cause violence.
But they have enough sympathizers.
They do.
Right. It's one of the things with I think was very interesting about this presidential election. I'm not saying every Trump voter is a racist and a xenophobe and a bigot. I'm not saying that. But his racist, xenophobic bigotry didn't stop you from voting for him. So, I'm not casting judgment on you, but your vote does cast judgment.
It does.
Right.
It does.
And everyone, I feel, their vote really mattered. And we found out a lot about people in this last election. If you voted Jill Stein or Gary Johnson, if you voted for Hillary, if you voted for Trump, right? I don't know any true Hillary supporters. I know a few, but they're all highfalutin and whatever. Mostly people were voting for her out of fear of Trump. That's how I knew she was going to lose. because it's the person that people are voting for that wins. And Trump had the Republican base. They were voting for Donald J. Trump. Most of Hillary's supporters were voting against Donald J. Trump.
He won the election.
That's not enough, you know.
No.
But here's the thing: half of the people voting for Trump were voting against Hillary. Half of the people voting for Hillary were voting against Trump. Who was voting for Hillary? Well, the establishment, this, that, and the other. Who was voting for Trump? The base of the Republican Party. If you have your base, you'll win. That's how these elections play out. I learned that in 2004 when I watched how Bush went up against Kerry. Kerry should have won. No questions asked. Bush had destroyed the country by 2004. And yet, not only did he win, he won the popular vote.
Kinda shocked.
He won the electoral college. Oh man, imagine living overseas, being an American, and waking up the next day to find out that Bush had been reelected. And the world is now looking at you as if you speak for all Americans. What happened to your country?
Started to spiral down.
Bush was the beginning of it. And I think ultimately, depending on, well, it happened long before Bush, but Bush really lit the fuse that started sending us down a very dark path. And Trump is a manifestation of the Bush era. Obama, I said this while I covered the presidential election in 2008. I like Obama, but he didn't have the tools to do what needed to be done after such a disaster that was the presidency of George W. Bush. And we needed Jefferson, we needed Lincoln, we needed FDR, we needed Teddy, we needed somebody to come in, grab this country kicking and screaming into the future. And he didn't do that. He was just an empty suit at the end of the day.
They thought Donald Trump was that guy.
Well, yeah, he was able to get over on that.
Because it was shocking to me that he won.
But the base that voted for Trump is the base that was resurrected under Bush. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, they all came to ascendancy in that time period, the Tea Party. When the Tea Party came of age, that's when things got serious. And the left hasn't had that happen yet. They're fighting it tooth and nail right now. Because unfortunately, the future base of the Democratic Party, the progressives, they don't vote. They're young and they don't vote. They don't show up. They don't take the interest they need. I think they will now.
That's the thing. This generation.
Now that, well, young people historically have never. Historically, young people have
not
never
when
voted.
I was young, because the Vietnam War got us there.
Right,
We
because
wanted
the
to
draft
end
was
that.
in play. The draft was in play, and they had lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. That's the only time we had a huge showing.
We had a reason.
Right. But
to
since they
stop the
eliminated the
war.
draft, they stopped the draft, there hasn't been that reason for young people to come out.
Right. So it's not a
And
reason.
so they don't. And so people that have no stake in the future of the country are electing the leaders of the country.
And thank goodness they didn't start the draft, because it would have just made these things worse. I think they realized that that would really be the end of it.
When the populace, when everybody's all in, wars tend to be faster.
But the people aren't all in. We don't.
Exactly why.
Right.
Because the people aren't all in.
No.
So
They follow
that's
along.
what kills wars, and that's what can stop wars. Is if the people aren't for the war, and they don't want to serve in it, and they're not willing to serve in it anymore. Well, then you got to end the war, right?
And speaking about ending the war, what time is it, man? I got to make a.
Oh, it's 3:10. Oh
Is
my
it
goodness!
really?
Yeah,
Oh
we've been
my
talking.
God.
We've
Yeah,
been
we've been-
talking. All right. Well,
I hate to put the stop, but I got to make a.
I saw the hour spot, and I was like, "Yeah, we're still flowing. Let's
Yeah,
keep going.
we're flowing, but
Let's go. I'll break this up." Well, Dave, it's always been a pleasure.
absolutely. I got a little lost here in this political quagmire.
Nah, it's fine. It's fine. I don't think you did. I think you
Well,
held your ground.
well, I
Good
held my
job.
ground, but I'm sinking fast.
It's the soft overcoming the
Going
hard,
down
my friend. You too can be a tight shoe.
I don't want to
master.
get too passionate about this, man.
Yeah, no. It's the passion as far as like earlier. That is. I see humanity as all one. I don't consider myself a race. I don't consider myself necessarily a nationality. You know, I was born in America, so I am an American. But at the end of the day, I'm a human being.
We are all human
first.
beings on this earth.
Right.
And we all came from the same place.
Correct.
And I think even religion teaches that, at least Christianity, that we
Try.
all came
Well, they got the
from Adam
Jew and
Eve.
Gentile thing. And
Yeah, but we still all came from the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
I guess it's all interpretation.
To a degree, yeah.
We all are the same. We came from the same beginnings.
But
I agree with that.
Yeah, agreed. So let's put this in a real perspective. In the reality, do what it is, not what it looks like. It looks like we're the masters of the universe and we control this great planet and all that. But what we are is a pale blue dot suspended in the
That's
sun.
all we are. That's all we are.
And on that note,
Yeah.
and that can either be magnificent or you can find, it can either make you feel insignificant or you can find magnificence in that
Because
insignificance.
we're a part. We're all part of the same. We're all in this together.
That's it.
Why are we so much against? Why is there so much?
We've only known this for like a century.
Why is
so-
there hate? Why, I
It's,
think
left,
goes
it's
back.
leftovers of our barbaric
Right.
past, of our archaic past.
I totally disagree with hate.
I do
I
too.
just do. I just don't think it's necessary.
No.
You can work around it and make things better. You don't have to like somebody.
The river goes around the rock.
Yeah. I mean, but to have that kind of hate to where you want to have kill somebody or beat
Yeah, that's
somebody,
something special.
it's bad. It's bad. It's not good. Not conducive to our principles there.
No, and it's definitely not conducive to the Tai Chi principles, that is for
No.
sure. Getting me all amped up.
Well, these Tai Chi principles are what we should live by. That's totally opposite.
It is. It is. Because there's always ground. There's always ground to give. And there's always a ways to work together. And it just comes to a point where you stop believing that.
So it's time to get rid of that in our society.
Right.
We've come a long way. We've come far enough to realize this is very detrimental. Let's get rid of it.
Right. Well, I think a part of it is there's been no price to be paid. There's been no real price to be paid for a while.
That's true. There hasn't.
And unfortunately, the universe is going to balance itself no matter what. So when something goes so far as to the extreme, when it snaps back, oh good God, it is going to be bad. It's going to be bad. And one would hope that maybe we could cut that off at the past, sort of curve it back more towards the center, balancing things out, you know. So, for instance, you know, the economy, if you give all the rich people the money, one of two things is going to happen. Feudalism or the French Revolution.
They're giving all the rich people money.
Exactly. So if we're going in that direction, this is what you're going to see happen.
But we still have the opportunity to get a piece of that pie.
Yeah, I'm
We
not
got
worried about the
opportunity.
pie. I'm playing the game. I'm playing the game.
I see that.
Just playing the
You're
game.
doing good.
I'm doing it. All right, brother.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah. We'll continue this.
That's right.
But not today.
Not today. And we are out.